What's up, my friends? Welcome to an all new video. Today we're talking about the ACFT again, as the ACFT not looking so good, guys. Not looking so good. It looks like potentially some problems again. This thing has been riddled with problems. I mean, I like it. I think that it is a great test to replace the 3 events of the push-up, sit-up, and 2-mile run, but it has had quite a few problems. I mean, right out the gate, when it first kind of came out, people were saying that people were having a hard time passing it, mainly females, and there was a large percentage of females that were failing it. A lot of the leaders in the Army were saying that it was just due to not properly training for the ACFT. And once we kind of get adjusted and start properly training for it, then that'll even out and we'll be much better. Then we hit 2020 and COVID happens, and it ends up being a thing where soldiers aren't really able to work out very well, so they kind of put it on hold as far as any kind of negative actions if you fail the ACFT for units and everything. Then that ended up kind of trickling over to initial training for like basic training AIT, where some locations were still doing it but not counted against them, and some places were just not doing it altogether, but it's no longer like a requirement to pass initial training to include AIT. And those are really just temporary. Those are really kind of just things that they say that are going to stay in effect probably throughout 2021, and maybe in 2022 that'll lift and it'll go back to the normal way of, yes, that if you can't pass the fitness test, then you can't graduate AIT, or you can't graduate basic training, or you can't get promoted and all that kind of stuff like normal. But now there's more. There's more. There's now apparently some individuals higher up, right, over in the Pentagon and Senate and everything like that, that would like to just simply halt all of the ACFT until an independent study can be conducted. The study they want to do is to find out if this negatively impacts like individuals from wanting to join the military, from going into certain MOSs, such as like maybe like your paralegals or certain other kind of type of desk jobs, I guess you could think of it as, that aren't very physically demanding but are still held to the same standards as far as they need to do these 6 events. They also want to look at, does it negatively kind of discourage against like females, right? Because they do see that there is a large percentage of females that are unable to pass the physical fitness test, mainly due to the leg tuck. They kind of try to combat that with that 2.0 version, which really was the same physical fitness test, is still the same ACFT, but now you have an option that if you can't do the leg tuck, then you can do 2 minutes of planking. Now, I don't know if there are kind of stats as far as the female failure rate was including the 2.0 version with the planking, or the previous version. It didn't really state it in the article I was reading about, but nonetheless, they want to kind of just let some people independently from the Department of Defense study things, study the stats and everything like that, and try to see, does it in fact kind of, discourage against females, or, give females a disadvantage, or is that not true and it's just, pretty well-rounded for everybody? Because their stats they're looking at, they're seeing a 65% failure rate for females, where only a 10% failure rate for men. So yeah, I guess looking at that, that does say something that maybe females are having a difficult time passing that. The difficult thing is that definitely, looks negatively on females, right? Females hate this, right? I remember even still currently, and even in my day kind of a thing, where females hated it when they got treated special because they're females or whatever, right? A lot of females don't want to be treated special. They want to be treated the same. But at the same time, I guess you do have to evaluate, does it just physically, I guess genetically or whatever, kind of go against female genealogy or whatever? I don't know what the science part of it is. I don't really know. So that's what that independent study's for, is, right? It's for people smarter than me, right? Maybe smarter than you, to kind of study it and figure out, is it fair for both men and women? I did like the idea of it being just one standard for everybody, right? But then I guess you do have to look at it, is that fair though still? I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out from that independent study if they end up going through with it, because it still hasn't been passed yet. It's a part of a bill that has to go through its processes and everything like that, but that's what the bill wants to do, is halt the ACFT until an independent study can be conducted. But as of right now, it hasn't passed yet. So, I mean, everything's still the same with ACFT. But if this does pass, the bill does get signed or whatever, then I guess that just means, I mean, it already doesn't count, right? So I guess that just means we won't even take it. I don't know if they're gonna have them go back to the 3 events to make sure that soldiers are staying in shape. I don't really know. Another part of that independent study that they want to find out is, does it kind of make it more difficult for locations that maybe are not able to do physical fitness on a regular basis. It didn't specifically say like what location that is. The only thing I can think of is maybe locations that have really cold weather during the wintertime months. So maybe places in Alaska, maybe like Fort Drum or something like that, where it's difficult to do the normal day-to-day physical fitness because of the extreme cold. So it's dangerous to go outside, so you end up having to do some kind of indoor physical fitness or just simply canceling PT altogether. So maybe they're trying to say that, the ACFT, because it is harder to do than the APFT with the 3 events, that you have to train harder for it. And so does this kind of make it harder for those locations that are not able to train all of the time because they have certain times of the year that's extremely cold and they're really restricted on what they can do because they have to stick to indoor physical fitness? You wouldn't think that's a big problem because a lot of you are thinking, oh, you just go to the gym or whatever. It really doesn't work that way. A lot of times on military installations, at least through the Army anyways, the gyms are usually reserved during physical fitness hours for individuals who have some kind of profile, some kind of injury or whatever, and they have to, only work out in a certain way. Everybody else usually has to do some kind of organized physical fitness with their platoons, with their squads or whatever, and that often doesn't usually mean going to the gyms. Especially because if you had everybody on the installation go into the gyms, they'd be packed and you'd have a lot of wait times, you'd have a lot of standing around doing nothing, and they don't want that. So they want to stay active with their physical fitness sessions, so they do them outside or whatever in a controlled area where you don't have to wait for a machine to become available or something like that. Now let's kind of review what the senator's saying here. The senator quotes saying, "We acknowledge that the ACFT 2.0 is a work in progress, but we have considerable concerns regarding the negative impact it may already be having on so many careers. It is imperative that we pause implementation until all questions and concerns are answered." So it sounds like to me, right, they're not necessarily saying that yes, the ACFT discourages certain individuals, looks negative against females, or is more difficult for females or difficult for people in certain areas or whatever the case is, but they suspect that it could be. And so they would like someone to really examine it and see if that's true or if it's just maybe COVID, maybe other things that are factoring into some of these stats they're seeing of these like large failure rates. And I don't know if they're having problems with retention, but that's kind of one of the factors they have in there is they're worried that people are not going to want to stay in the Army because they're, have more physical demand on them, or people are not going to want to join and be a paralegal or something like that because they still have to, do these, deadlifts and medicine ball throws and leg tucks and everything else that everybody else has to do. Sure, at maybe a lower standard for passing level compared to like those different levels on the ACFT compared to like infantry and everything like that. But still, nonetheless, they still have the same 6 events, just a lower passing requirement, I guess you could say. So we'll see. We'll see if this bill gets passed, if it goes through everything, gets signed, and if they do an independent study, what comes about with that independent study. I guess if it goes through, then we're on hold, I guess, for the ACFT, and then they have to maybe make modifications to it. I don't know. So the ACFT as we know it can end up changing once again. If you're not sure what the minimum passing standards are for the ACFT, I've got a video that I've already done that I'll leave right here that you guys can check out right there. If you haven't seen my latest video, check it out. It's right there. I've got links down in the description for social media, the Discord channel, all that fun stuff. I'm ChristopherChaos. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you next time. See ya.